the rising intonation, and why and when would I use the falling intonation? Well, it's pretty simple, okay? The rising intonation is used when I am maybe just 70% sure that someone will agree with me. So let's apply this to the sentence I have written out here and see why I would use a rising intonation as far as this sentence goes. Well, I'll give you the background, okay? Well, me and a friend of mine, we've both gone and watched a horror movie. Now, I'm a person who loves horror movies. You know, I'm all into vampires and Draculas and werewolves. But my friend, she's really scared. I mean, she doesn't really like horror movies, but she'd watch it because I was doing so. Now, I am sure that she will agree with me because I took her with me. So therefore, since I'm around 70% sure that she will agree with me, I will rise, my voice will rise when I'm using the question tag, because my rising voice indicates that I'm really eager to get her to say yes to what I am asking her through my question. So I would say, that was a good movie, wasn't it? Well, my wasn't it kind of, just goes a little higher, and that is what my rising intonation is all about, because I am maybe 70% sure that she will agree with me, because I know she does not really watch horror movies, but she might agree with me because, I took her out with me. Then on the flip side, you have your falling intonation, okay? Now, your falling intonation is used when you are almost sure, when you are almost 100% sure. So can I say that you are maybe 90 to 95% sure that someone will agree with you? When we are sure, we have a quiet confidence. When I'm sure about things, I don't need to raise my voice. I'm very confident. Don't we all see that? Yes, we do. Well, that is why when I'm sure, when I'm almost 100% sure that someone will agree with my opinion or with my question or with the point I'm trying to confirm or emphasize, that's when my voice will fall at the question tag. So in this sentence, I kind of raised my voice when I had the question tag. Now let's look at the same sentence. What if me and my friend loved horror movies? We both go to horror movies whenever we get the opportunity. In fact, we even download movies on our computers and watch it day in and day out. Well, I know that's a little bit too extreme, but suppose we both love these kind of movies, and I am pretty sure that she will agree with me. In fact, I'm totally sure she will agree with me. So I say, that was a good movie, wasn't it? And she would say, yes, of course it was, because I know she does like these kind of movies, and so do I. So that's when I use the falling intonation. Well, now I will deal with how to structure a question tag, which is something you also need to know along with using the intonations. As I said, it is also important to know how to form or how to structure a question tag. Well, there are two main rules, and the first one is to know that if your main verb in the sentence is a positive one, the question tag at the end of your sentence will always be negative, and vice versa, which means if my main verb is negative, the question tag at the end of the sentence will automatically be positive. So let's look at the main verb in the sentence, which is, he is funny. So the main verb, what is it? Is your main verb in the sentence, and is the verb of is the form of to be. The to be verb. So is one of the forms of the to be verb. So since is positive, the negative form is isn't, also known as is not. So you have is, and then you have the negative form, which is not. And my rule states that since my main verb is positive, my question tag will be a negative one. So the is gets converted to an is not, and the pronoun, which is he, falls after the is not, or the negative form of the verb. So I will say he is funny, and then I take a quick look at the main verb, change that into the negative, and then add the he at the end of the question, and that makes the question tag. We have now something like she didn't finish her homework, did she? Well, you've got two verbs here, but the main verb is did, which is a form of the verb to do. Okay, and did not is negative. Didn't means did not. But the rule states that if the main verb is negative, then my tag will be positive, and vice versa, which means the did not gets converted into a did, which is the positive of did not, and then I add the pronoun after the positive form of the verb. So I say she didn't finish her homework, and then I take a quick look at the main verb, and I see that, okay, this is negative, and I make it positive, and then I put the pronoun at the end of it, with the question, of course. Well, let's move on to our next point when determining as to how we form a question tag. Our next rule says that question tags which are formed with a do or a don't or a did or a didn't, they are mainly used when the verbs do not come with auxiliaries, or when the verb is without an auxiliary. For example, you have a sentence like she didn't finish her homework. I did mention to you a while earlier that didn't is a verb and so is finish. So we've got actually two verbs in this sentence. But didn't is a supporting verb which supports the main verb, which is finish. And therefore, didn't becomes my auxiliary. So that's what an auxiliary verb does. It supports the other verb in the sentence. But in some sentences, there are no auxiliaries, but the sentence still, makes grammatical sense. And we have a sentence like, they speak English fluently. Now, if you see, my rule says that when I don't have an auxiliary, which I don't in this sentence because I have only one verb, I don't have a supporting verb, and my main verb is speak. So when I have a sentence without an auxiliary, that is when I use either do, don't, did, or didn't. Now, how do I know which ones to use from these? Well, speak is positive. So when I say they speak English, I'm referring to doing something, and therefore I'm referring to they do speak English, and therefore I use the rule number 1, which says that if do is positive, I will use the negative form of the same word, which is don't, and then I put the pronoun after the don't, the negative form. Moving on to another sentence without an auxiliary, which says, we ran for hours in the park. You only have one verb. You don't have an auxiliary. You don't have a verb supporting the ran. Okay? So what do I use to form the question tag out of the do, the don't, the did, and the didn't? Let's have a look. We ran. Is that a past tense? Yes. So, can I say we did run? It's something we did in the past. So therefore, did is something we did in the past, we did run, okay, for hours. And since did is a positive verb, my first rule says that if my main verb is positive, then the question tag will be negative. So then I use didn't, and then I follow that with the pronoun, which is we. So therefore I say, we ran for hours in the park, didn't we? Well, you don't say the do, you don't say the did run. This is for your understanding, because this is what it implies when I don't have an auxiliary verb. Well, that brings me to the end of this lesson on question tags. Well, keep practicing, because question tag is something that we use in an informal speech, and as you practice, you will be in a position to speak it and to use it more perfectly.